let's talk a little bit about Svadhisthana chakra. The second chakra, the sacral chakra, the sexual chakra, there are several names. Sacral is the most commonly used. We are going into the more subtle aspects and details of it before you start a yoga practice so that you can fine-tune the effects, your observations, let's say, your integration. However, it's very important not to be so much driven by the expectation or by the mind. And I'm highlighting this while talking about Svadhisthana because Svadhisthana's primary characteristic is to copy. Like copying a state of being, copying an idea, copying a content and pasting it. So people who have a strong Svadhisthana have the tendency to easily grasp, the main messages in a social context and pass it on as if it's theirs, as if it's coming from their heart. And it can be very, very convincing. So convincing that they really believe that they have that comprehension. That's why we have so many crazy new age enlightened or spiritually realized beings out there. It may be the case that they had a glimpse of something, that we had a glimpse of something, and then we pretend to be there, we pretend to have done the work, to have crossed the bridge. But actually, unfortunately, it's mostly our copycat characteristic. And when the shit hits the fan, when things get tough in life, or when you're confronted with what you have inside beyond the masks, which usually happens in a relationship context when your buttons are poked, or in a difficult life situation. So when you're in strain, your true colors show, basically, and that's what happens with Svadhisthana. That's why I'm also inviting you to a really non-reactionary way of observing yourself instead of make-believe kind of practice, because that's the trick. Svadhisthana, it literally means the dwelling of yourself, your inner world, in a way, the dwelling of the subconscious. That's the chakra that manages all of our subconscious functions. That's the chakra which basically builds the masks that we carry in life. What do I mean by that? When I'm triggered in my emotions, I have a defense mechanism that my ego has established for me. I have my memories in the subconscious, and parts of myself, parts of my identity act out to protect me. So a person may, feeling threatened to be abandoned, for example, not to be loved, may act out in form of fear or victim, like always playing the victim. That may be a mask. Or may act out with anger, always attacking. When I see emotionality from my friend or partner or mother or whatever, I'm like, I feel threatened by it and I attack. Or it can be many different masks, mask of the seductress is the big Svadhisthana mask. And seduction, I don't mean only sexual seduction, although it definitely fits into that category. I also mean seduction by being nice, playing nice, being pleasant, or being loving, oh, I do so much for you when I don't ask anything in return. Playing that game, but actually not meaning that game. So crying crocodile tears is a very common expression for Svadhisthana, and the symbolic animal of Svadhisthana is crocodile, actually. Like this always smiling face of crocodile while it bites you. So Svadhisthana has these mean aspects and has very beautiful aspects as well, and it's an important chakra to study because majority of us have a lot of energy in Svadhisthana. I personally have a lot of energy in Svadhisthana. We live in a juicy world, 75% water. We live in a juicy body, 75% water, and obviously the chakra that manages the water element, resonates with the water element, rules. It's very rare, like the lower percentage of people have a dominance at higher levels of consciousness. And most of us, especially the ones who end up on a yogic path or on a spiritual path, are a bit more complex, have possibly the good karma, the good faith to have a bit of awakening in other higher chakras as well, so that our consciousness, the filter of our consciousness, it takes us to also more expanded, higher levels. What do I mean by filter of consciousness? Chakras are basically like, I put the color of pink eyeglasses and I see everything pink. I put red, I see everything red. That's how the chakra works as well. When I have the filter of Svadhisthana, this is how I perceive myself, life, even my spiritual connection. And unfortunately, the dominance of Svadhisthana most of the time imitates rather than climbs up, because it's the heavy, watery, sticky energy, and it's not so easy to make it evaporate. A bit easier than earth, but still a long way to go. The chakras are connected to basic plexus in the body, where the nerves and the glands and basically important physical functions are located. It's not a random thing. And yogis gave them the name of the knots, granthis. So each chakra is basically coinciding with a granthi. And if that lock is open, then the energy can flow. So Svadhisthana, managing the reproductive organs, the lymph system in that area, like the Bartholin's gland and Skin's gland for women, and the Kapur gland for men, for the testes, it's called the Varuna Granthi. So if the Varuna Granthi is open, then the energy can flow through this part, and that's an interesting piece of information. So now let's talk about how Svadhisthana manifests in the physical body. People with a strong Svadhisthana usually have a pale and soft and juicy skin. They look youthful, although maybe not super radiant, but because of this pale quality. Like big soft eyes, usually light colors are considered, like blue velvet colors, green, light green are considered as more Svadhisthana dominance. Whereas the fierier it gets, the more dark the colors get. Arched eyebrows, this conic shape of face, thick lips, which are also a bit pale, are typically Svadhisthana. When it comes to the more emotional and personality aspects, Svadhisthana people are really good in social connectedness, although they can be at the conservative end, like a bit cold, a bit conventional, a bit like snobbish in a way. If the Svadhisthana is solar, they want to, masculine, they want to define the norms of that social convention. The more yin Svadhisthana, the more feminine Svadhisthana would want to become a part of that clique. In balanced Svadhisthana, they would really have this ability to make people around them feel good about themselves. So the good part of that popularity is also, if it's a balanced, not too masculine, not too feminine kind of Svadhisthana, people like being around these people because they're comforting. People with a good quality of Svadhisthana, with good quality of water, are naturally good healers, good therapists. It requires other insights as well, obviously, but that's a good ground, let's say. Another important quality of Svadhisthana worth mentioning is it's good in manifesting things. Like there is this magical quality of creating abundance, creating comfort, creating luxury. It was very interesting when I was doing my Svadhisthana tapas, like this committed practice on Svadhisthana. It was the weirdest thing. I was invited to the poshest parties, or wherever I went, I was offered, like I didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't have to, like, I was on yacht trips, I was on, like, everything was manifesting in the highest comfort and luxury to me without me requesting. It was happening naturally. I was constantly being invited or taken care of effortlessly, and that was really interesting. There was a lot of luxury and comfort, more than regular, that was manifesting in my life, and that's a Svadhisthana quality. Also, it can manifest as this magnetic power, the sensuous power that is very attractive to the opposite energy. I'm consciously not saying opposite gender, I'm saying opposite energy. Solar Svadhisthana would consciously use it, you know, like for seduction. And if a person doesn't have that quality and awakened, everybody can have that quality, but is not awakened, can be very triggered by it. I do some femininity work as well. Actually quite a lot of femininity work as well. And I encounter women who are very pissed off by other women who use their sensuality and sexuality. I'm not suggesting we use that, because I think it's a very mean mask to use those powers, and it needs to be handled with care. However, if we react so strongly against that, there is something to look at as well. It's a darkness of Svadhisthana as well. It's coming from the same source. It happens with men also, you know, men being triggered by handsome, flirtatious men who are like chick magnets, and they feel threatened and they show it in a different way. This is Svadhisthana. This is the game of Svadhisthana. Svadhisthana plays. And you can use that quality as a play, because life is ultimately a game. It's a game of the feminine and masculine. It's a divine play. And if you use the refined quality of Svadhisthana, it will make your life colorful. You will have more pleasure in life, in the food that you taste, in the talk that you have with a loved one, in an environment that you are subjected to. Like, everything can turn into a pleasure, and that pleasure can be really absorbed and even take you to higher states of consciousness. I did have Svadhisthana bliss in my practice. You know, I remember being absorbed by the sea, swimming, or I remember being absorbed by a state of falling in love, or, you know, the qualities that are generated by Svadhisthana can take you to bliss. There is a way to access the most refined levels through any chakra. However, these lower 3 chakras are also coming with lots of traps. And we need to be mindful, we need to be aware. And that trap of Svadhisthana around seduction is the manipulation. Strong Svadhisthana people have a lot of manipulative power. They manipulate their relationships to make it work for them. And usually it doesn't last, because you cannot cover the sun with mud. Eventually, how far can you manipulate? You know, eventually things will fall apart. But they can do it in a very masterful way. And of course, I mean, we pick our relationships according to the tests that we need in our life. So we may keep on falling again and again and again for that type of quality, that sticky quality of like puppeteering. Or we may do that again and again in our relationships. Yeah, and we may not be even aware of it. It may feel natural, it may feel normal to us. And I have to say, the modern culture and all the information around relationships and life and what's important in life that we're subjected to right now is not helping. I also experience it in me. The moment I go into that mainstream type of information or exposure or so on, my energy drops to that watery, heavy part, and you can easily notice it in yourself. Like, the emotions that are coming up are more sticky, more heavy, more romantic. So the quality changes. There are more cravings. There is more need for instant gratification. Oh, I need something to make me feel good. Be it, okay, let's do some online shopping, or let's watch an episode of this or that. You know, I need an instant gratification. I need to be fulfilled. There's a void in me and I need to fill it in. No such thing. That's the Svadhisthana filter. And we need to be very aware of that filter. It's a delicate balance, embracing that good quality, but at the same time being very mindful when it starts overwhelming and deepening your masks and preventing you from connecting to your self.